main goal here, at the beginning of the goal here, is the distinguishing something called maximum. And you might have not seen this word. It's very technical word. It's mathematical jargon, I think. Supremum. Have you seen that word before? Yeah, Supremum pizza. Is that how you write Supremum? That's Supremum, exactly. All right, so you've seen this one. Sorry about that. So it's a Supremum is a more general notion than a maximum. So let me draw a graph. Let's say the graph looks like this. So that's the graph of y equals f of x. So what kind of domain does it have? Is it infinite domain or finite domain? In a finite domain, this looks like x values in here. It's bounded. So I'm going to draw this horizontal line here as y equals maybe a. And you can see it does not intersect the graph of a function, right? So the goal is that, can you imagine this horizontal line and you put it in here such that above that line there's no portion of a graph? Right now, if I put that line over there, you agree that there's no portion of the graph lies above that line y equals a, right? So can you put the line that's the lowest line such that above that line there's no portion of the graph? So on that, and that right there, like right there, that passing through that hole, right? Do you agree? That's the lowest line, such that if you go even lower, there will be always one point above that line, right? So that line, I call b the number. B is called the supremum value of the function f of x on that interval, maybe on the interval. You see the interval? What's the interval? Interval on x value, maybe like this. That's the interval I we're looking at. And can you imagine there's a highest line, y equals, let's say, c, such that below that line there's no portion of the graph exists. So right now this is y equals c, and you can see that below that point there's no portion of the graph appearing, right? But can you imagine there's a highest line such that below that point there's no portion of the graph appearing? That's exactly the point that is going through here. Is that right? So I'm going to call that y equals d. That value d is called infimum. That's the word that the dictionary did not recognize, the internet dictionary did not recognize. So infimum value of f of x on that interval. Is that clear, Notion? Yeah. So it's easy to introduce in terms of picture. It's very difficult to write down a mathematically correct description that doesn't rely on a picture. So that's why they usually don't introduce this supremum value and infimum value in calculus. But it's useful to distinguish it from maximum value and minimum value. So this b, is this b a part of the graph, that this y coordinate b? Does there any portion of the graph that actually hits this y equals b? So because of that we say b is not maximum. When we say maximum, we require that value is achieved by a function. Okay, and d here, d is the minimum. D is not a minimum because there's a hole and there's no actual one point, and so d is not the minimum. And this graph of a function does not have a maximum and does not have a minimum. It does have a supremum, it does have infimum. Okay? So let's change this picture to a case where there is a maximum. How about example of this graph like that? And you see that interval there? What kind of interval is it? Open interval and closed interval. Open interval, right? So Do you see the maximum here? Do you see the supremum? Do you think you can locate that portion of that line such that above the line there's no portion of the graph? Lowest line, right? Can you locate the lowest line? So this is not definitely the lowest line, right? Let me use a red line. Isn't that the lowest line here? That y equals a, that's the lowest line. Yeah, if you go below, there will be always something above that line. So this is the lowest as you can get. So to clear up the above and here. How about the highest line, such that the below there's nothing? And that's this line right there. You agree? I'm going to call that y equals b. So what is the name of this value a? A is supremum. First is a supremum, and it is going to be a maximum. That's the point here. As first is supremum, and b here is infimum, right? Because that was the value, and this time is a the maximum, because it is the part of the graph right there. It is the point, so it is the maximum as well. And here b is the minimum as well, because that is a point right there, is a part of the graph. That value b is achieved by function value. Does that make sense? That's exactly right, and that's the subtle point, right? Yeah. Right. Mhm. So when they say maximum exists and minimum exists and maximum doesn't exist and minimum doesn't exist, it is that the value we're thinking about, it is the actual function value or not, and that's the subtlety in there. It's not just looking at the picture, highest point, lowest, not like that. You have to clarify that there is actually a function value. And we're using these pictures, but you know, arguing this without relying on the picture gets trickier. That's why they make a big deal in that section 4.1 and write down a series of theorems. So I'm going to show you some pictures they have and see if our understanding is clear. How about this guy? Do you see the infimum and maximum? Infimum exist and supremum exist? Yeah. How about maximum, minimum? Yeah, that end part is not part of it, so we don't say it's maximum exist. How about this guy here? It has a supremum there, and it has an infimum. But it doesn't have a maximum, but it has minimum, right? This is a part of the graph. Does that make sense? How about the second one here? Not the maximum, but the infimum, I mean supremum exists in here, right? Yes. That is something that because it's different, but the definition was about the line, existence of a line. If you go that top point below, you find some portion of the graph lies above the line. So therefore, doesn't matter if there's a break or not. You're looking for kind of highest point. If it is really the point is a part of the graph, maximum, if not supremum, right? Supremum and infimum always exist. One question is that what if the function blows up to infinity, right? You can imagine 1 over x, that kind of thing blows up to infinity. And they say the supremum exists and it is infinity. Infinity is not treated as a value, but in mathematics, when you enter the level, they talk about supremum and infimum, but they have a tendency to say its behavior is clear, it exists. And at some point in higher mathematics, they begin to treat infinity as a value in geometry, not as a numbered number line, as a number. Not algebraically, but geometrically, they treat infinity as a number. So, supremum, they say exists. So let's not get into too much about supremum exists. But maximum exists, maximum doesn't exist. I think that's clear. From that last example I said, I have to clarify something like this. If I have a function like this with the vertical asymptotes, for example, remember that kind of function? How about this one? Does this one have maximum? Maximum does not exist. There's no one line such that there's nothing. There's always some portion above it. Maximum does not exist, right? How about minimum? Well, I put the circle there. So no. Infimum exists, but maximum a minimum does not exist. But it's not clear about this. How it's kind of flattened out. Maybe it's just slightly lower, but that's not the point of it here. All right, that's just the concept of a maximum and minimum, things like that. Make sense? All right. So there's